Have a great moment, everyone. Welcome once again to Academia Gonzaga, and this is Mentor Noy. This moment, we will be tackling technical and scientific writing. Now, on module number 2, we will be entitling our study this moment as How to Grab Your Target Reader's Attention. Meaning, what are the techniques we're in as a writer, you can grab the attention or the focus of your writer? Well, let me tell you that there are so many writers today, but not all of them can get the attention of their readers. Why? Well, first and foremost, let us first go to the common materials that people read every day, and let us try to uncover what is the average time that people give to each of these material. Now, the first here is book or novel. Believe it or not, people give 3 to 8 hours for this material. Lifestyle magazine, 1 to 2 hours average reading time. Current affairs magazine or newspapers, 10 minutes to 1 hour. Reports general, shall we say, reports from private sectors, from the school, from institutions, 3 to 8 minutes. And annual report, or the reports that we pass through the institutions, the report we pass to our teachers, the report we pass for our educational purposes, well, they only have 5 to 10 minutes to read that. Websites, vlogs, they have 1 to 5 minutes to read that. Business correspondence or letters, 1/2 to 2 minutes. And then memorandum or memoranda, they have 1/2 to 1 minute. So you can just imagine, you need to know what kind of things you are writing, and you need to know the kind of attention span that people have for this kind of materials. Now, if you come to think of it, memo, business correspondence, website, annual report, reports in general, they are actually technical writing materials. You need professional knowledge to write this one. Whereas current affairs, magazine, newspapers, lifestyle magazine, books, they are for general usage. So this is trying to tell us that people are more concerned with the socialities of life and less with the technicalities of life or with the formalities of life. By the way, before we continue, you can always glance at your handouts because we are discussing here something which is also in your handout. Now, to continue further, let us dissect the 5 steps to grab a reader's attention. So, let me first name these 5 steps that grabs the reader's attention. Number 1, you should have a point up front. What do we mean by this? The point of the document is evident right away. It should not be dangling modifiers, or shall we say, it should not be too confusing or too wordy. It should be point up front. What do you call this? Step number 2, use plain words. The use of easy words makes the document more understandable and less complicated. So, erase the thing in your mind that when you use so highfalutin words, you are more respected. The point is, if you can make clearer common words more visible to your readers, they will respect you more because they can understand you more. Third, short sentences only. Do not make very long, compound, complex sentences, more of commas, because that will entail a lot of understanding problems. So use more periods than commas in technical writing. Then, descriptive headlines. When you write something, it would be nice if there is a headline so that people will know what is the content of what you're writing. If you will just write an essay without a headline, people will not consume more than 5 minutes to read that. That is why most of the time, essays without headings usually goes to the trash can. And then lastly, clear and airy layout. Now, what do we mean by clean and airy layout? Even the bond paper that you are using or the paper that you are using, it should be clean. It should not be crumpled. It should be organized. It should have a lot of spaces for the readers to see. A technical writing paper should not be compounded, complex, and shall we say, it should not be a sardines like content. It should be easy for the eyes, more white spaces, and neat and clean. Now, these are the 5 steps how to grab your reader's attention. We will take this up one by one so that you will understand further. Okay, so let us go to step number 1. Make your point upfront. Well, by making your point upfront, you should give the big picture first and then the details afterward. It's not really working in technical writing wherein you keep a suspense. There is no such thing as suspense in technical writing. You don't hide the great fact. In technical writing, present the fact right away and discuss it. Now, second here is summary shows general direction. When you are writing a technical writing, the first, the second, the third, the fourth paragraph, and the last should always be connected. The last paragraph should summarize the preceding paragraphs. It should not be alienated from each other. Now, conclusion at the front and at the end. This is what I'm telling earlier. In writing technical writing, you present right away the facts. So when you're writing your boss, you say something like, Sir, I am very sorry for being absent because I was diagnosed with pneumonia. And then after presenting that is the conclusion. You present it first. After presenting that, describe and explain right away why do you came up with or why did you end up with pneumonia. So it's useless to describe and put the meat at the end because technical writing does not work that way. Now, what should your summary contain? Well, a descriptive headline is a must. How many maintained road cars, or shall we say, it should only be 20 to 50 words as much as possible because the conclusion is only the summary of everything that you have already talked about. So it's useless to repeat all of them again. Okay. Now that is step number 1. Step number 2, use a clean and airy layout. A good layout pulls the reader in. Okay? So when you say pulls the reader in, you don't shock your reader with an almost filled paper. The paper should be half filled with ink, or shall we say 1/3 filled with ink, and then the rest will be white. That will give the reader an impression that this material is not too tiring to read. This material is not too much. This material will give me rest along the way. Secondly, use lots of white spaces. This is what I'm trying to say because it takes the eyes to read what you are actually it takes the eyes to read the written forms. So when the eyes cannot rest along the way because of too many ink written on it, the eyes will strain and it will be hard for the reader to finish what is being printed there. That's why it's always basic to understand that when you write a technical letter, a technical output, it should have lots of white spaces because the eye of the reader needs to rest. Okay? Now, here are some myths that I want to clarify with you as we go along with technical writing, especially in grabbing your readers. Okay. Myth: you must use formal language. This is wrong. In technical writing, you are not required to use very formal language. You just use clear everyday language because that language is more common and understandable. Okay? Second, myth: readers have to be fully informed. Okay? The reality is, readers only have to be reasonably informed. When you write a person a letter, you don't expect that person to understand everything. In the first place, if the person sees your letter and the person is not interested because it's very full on one page and it seems that it's too much to take in, the person will not read that anymore. So always remember, when you are writing technically, it can only mean that the first two paragraphs will be read. This is the very reason why you have to put the conclusion right away at the first or second paragraph of your letter, not at the last. Because the tendency that your technical writing will not be read is very, very high. Okay? Myth number 3. People are dying to read your document. That is very, very mythical. That is very, very wrong. The reality is they would rather be doing something else than read your letter, because in the first place, it's your letter to them. It does not concern them. So for them to be concerned with your letter, you should at least make your letter more presentable, more technical, and more appealing to the one reading it. That's why we are learning technical writing here. The right words, the shorter words, the better white spaces, and the neatness of the letter that you are giving is very important. Okay. Now, added more, you should choose the right fonts in the letters that you write. Do not choose very fancied fonts. Okay. For general letter writing, the suggested letter writing fonts will be Times New Romans, okay? And shall we say, what's the other one? I think it's Gothic. But recently, we are using really Times New Romans. You can use also others such as Arial Narrow. These are not very fancied fonts. Do not use fonts that is very destructive to the eyes. Fonts that will give the impression to your reader that you're treating them like a grador or an elementary or a person that only wants entertainment. Remember, the simplicity of the font is also the technicality and formality that it brings with it. Use capital letters sparingly. Remember, dear learners, capital letters means emphasis. Capital letter means underscoring. And sometimes capital letter means it is anger. That's why use capital letters only in your technical writing documentations or technical writing outputs sparingly, only if it is important. Now here, next, step number 3, use descriptive headlines. Text without headline is pain. This is what I'm trying to tell you earlier. I am a teacher who seldom gives essay. And when I give essay, I expect my students to have descriptive headlines because I don't want to read the essay and then come up with what idea the student wanted to impose to me. I want to know the idea first before I read the essay. That's why headline is very important. Make your headline descriptive, meaning it should be understandable. Avoid empty introductions. Okay? So you can say something like, why was this document written? You can say, write it right away, written document. So avoid empty introductions or words that are just making these things longer. Use headlines in graphs. So many of us are presenting graphs, presenting tables, but we do not put headlines. So people reading it will still try to analyze what they want to see in that graph. Whereas if you put headlines, it would have been easy for them already to know what they are expecting from that headline, from that graph itself. Okay. Now, let us continue. Step number 4. Use plain and everyday words. Okay? Simple is always best in technical writing. Now, I have some words here that I considered very long, but you can make it shorter. Okay, you can use words like manufacture. Just use simple words such as make. Instead of using the word purchase, use buy. Instead of using the word terminate, use end. Okay? Instead of using the words expeditiously, you can use the word quickly or fastly. What I'm trying to say here is consider your long words as pain to the reader's eyes. You need to use shorter and common words. Okay, next. Steer clear of jargon. What is a jargon? Jargon are words that can only be understood in a specific profession. Okay? So, avoid using jargonal words or jargonal slurs. When you say something like pre-owned vehicles, you can just simply use the word used car. Okay? When you say something like interdental cavity remover, why not use the word toothpick? Okay? You can say, my house is geographically located in Tacoling, Bacolod City. My house was geographically relocated at Tacoling, Bacolod City. Why not just say, I transferred to Tacoling? Okay? You say, negative patient care outcome. That could have been death. Okay? So, if you say something like, I almost stepped on a utility access hole. What you're trying to say is a manhole. Or when you're in the laboratory, you can say, I used binocularly operated scopes. Well, nobody will understand you except for the laboratory technician and the biologist. So why not use the word microscope? This is what we mean by avoiding jargons and use only simple words. Okay? Another is avoid long-winded expression, meaning these are expressions you can avoid or you can shorten or you can eliminate. Example here is, in majority of the instances, why not use only one word? Usually. It just means the same. Okay? Or you always say, as a consequence of, you say, because, okay? So you say something like, emptiness of the tank is as a consequence of a hole under it. You can just say, emptiness of the tank is because of a hole under it. So you just simply say it shorter, better, and more technical. Let's give one more example. You say, at the present, I am now the CEO of this company. You can just say, now, I am the CEO of this company. You save a lot of words and a lot of time. This is what we mean by what? Avoiding long-winded expression, or shall we say, shortening things that can be shortened. Step number 5. Use active voice more than passive voice. Do not tell the story. Tell the action. That is what we mean by this. Passive voice is only good for storytelling, while active voice obtains authority, first person, and it gives the readers the opportunity to have an impression that you are a good person, you are a person who knows what you're talking about. Again, avoid redundant words. Okay, eliminate those words. Okay, for example, watch how the following sentence shrink. Okay, now, the information that we currently have at our disposal, you can just say the information that we have. Why did you say a lot of words when you only mean this one? Another here is walk in and come inside the house. Wow. You can just say come in and it still mean the same. So, another is don't pad the start of your system. Don't pad the start of your sentence. Okay? Now, dust off that grammar book. Okay. So, basically, this is what I'm trying to tell you when you will be ushering through the point of how to get your readers read something you want them to read. Remember, if you understand what they want, if you understand the time that they have in reading what you want them to read, if you know their needs, why they want to read something you gave, that is the time when you can get the attention of your readers. But letting them read what you want them to read or what you want them to understand will never be read because they don't have time for you. Remember, readers have only 3 to 5 minutes for technical documentation. So strike right away what needs to be known in the first two paragraphs and describe later on. So, let us summarize our recommendation for technical writing. Number one, place a thesis statement at the first paragraph of your writing, or better yet, you place a headline. Secondly, conclude first and explain later. Meaning, conclusion should appear in the first and second paragraph, and the explanation appears later. Third, use a clean and presentable layout, meaning it's not the amount of print inside the bond paper. It's not the amount of words written there. It's the weight of the words. And better yet, have a lot of spaces there so that the eyes of the reader will not also suffer. Formulate a descriptive title, meaning this title describes or gives the attention to your reader what is inside that paragraph. Use plain and short words, meaning you don't need jargonal words, you don't need highfalutin words. Use common words correctly, and that is enough for technical writing. Develop short and sensible sentences, as what we have said earlier. More periods, less comma. More simple sentences, less compound and complex sentences. Write only jargon-based if dealing with intra-professional affiliation, meaning if you're talking to the same professional level or professional courses, use jargon. But if it is interprofessional concerns, such as teacher talking to nurse, lawyer talking to engineer, use common language because you do not want jargon to travel with another jargon. Now, next here is, remember, long sentences are not grammatically wrong nor prohibited in writing. The only point is, long sentences will also need long understanding, and your reader doesn't have that time. So we prefer short, meaty, and full sentences rather than long sentences that will be empty, full of words that are not needed, redundancies, and many more things. Now, dear learners, do you already know how to grab the attention of your readers using the technical writing output criteria? So, never forget that you need always to apply the 5 steps, okay, that we were suggesting so that your written materials, technical written materials, will be given attention. Number one, your point should be upfront, first and second paragraph. Second, use plain words. Third, short sentences. Fourth, use headlines. And fifth, remember to have a clean and airy layout. If you have this, rest assured, your technical writing output, for whatever purpose it will be used, will be given attention by the person you are addressing this letter. However, don't forget, you only have 3 to 5 minutes attention span from your reader. So make the best in the first few minutes of your written output. The first and second paragraph should be very powerful, because who knows, that's the only paragraph that will be read. Once again, this is Mentor Noy Gonzaga, and this is Academia Gonzaga Technical Writing Lessons. God bless everyone.